Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, celebrating Harlem's rich cultural legacy and the ongoing fight to preserve it. The exhibition Still Here, Harlem Eternal. Also ahead, reframing history, a rare look into the home of a 19th century black family at New York City's Tenement Museum. And the sweet sounds of summer, a roundup of area jazz festivals with WBGO. That's all ahead on this half-hour edition of Here and Now. As America marks the 250th anniversary of its founding, the nation is taking a long look at its history, and that includes the lives and contributions of African Americans. For the first time, the Tenement Museum in New York City is sharing the story of a black family. Joseph and Rachel Moore were a free black couple who lived in Lower Manhattan during and after the Civil War. Joining us today to tell us more about 4A the Moors is Vice President of Programs and Interpretation, Kathryn Lloyd, and lead researcher, Marquis Taylor. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for
having us. So why don't you first talk to us a little bit about the mission of the Tenement Museum?
Sure, of course. So the Tenement Museum, we began in 1988, and for over 30 years have been welcoming visitors into the recreated homes of immigrant and migrant families, really with this mission to connect past to present, and to work towards building a more expansive and inclusive understanding of American identity and American society.
And why do you think it is so important for Americans to understand and connect with that history?
So our founders, Ruth Abram and Anita Jacobson, put it, very smartly when they founded the museum in the 1980s. What they said was that more Americans have connections to people who lived in tenements or to working class Americans than Americans do to the people that we might typically read about in textbooks, right? Presidents, generals, right? So that is important history, of course. But our founders really saw that more people would connect to the history of everyday people. And that when you look at the history of everyday people, that is the history of immigrants, of migrants, of people coming to New York City from other places to start new chapters of their lives.
Yeah, and a lot of time coming here with nothing and having to literally build from the ground up.
Exactly.
And I don't even mean that in the best of ways. And Marquis, I want to bring you into this conversation because this exhibit, 4A the Moors, I know is near and dear to your heart. Talk to me about your connection to it.
And so I serve as lead researcher for 4A the Moors. I am a PhD candidate at Northwestern University, and so I'm a scholar of African American history, and so I'm deeply interested in the experiences of African Americans, particularly in New York City, but also throughout the country as well. However, when I received the opportunity to do this pre-doctoral fellowship, I was really excited because I actually attended high school right around the corner from where we are today, in the same neighborhood that Joseph and Rachel Moore had actually lived. So now we are in a neighborhood that's known as Soho, but when Joseph and Rachel Moore would have lived here in the 1860s and 1870s, it would have been known as Lower Manhattan's 8th Ward. And so that's the community that they lived in. And when I was a high school student in this neighborhood, about 10 years ago, I graduated from high school in 2016.
Oh my goodness.
But I had no idea the extent to which this neighborhood had some of the highest concentrations of Black New Yorkers living here. And so it was a really, really fascinating opportunity for me to learn about Black people in a city that I'm from and in new ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. He just exemplified what you explained about why more Americans are connected to just plain old regular folks that lived in the tenements than are, I guess, George Washington or Thomas Jefferson in a lot of ways, or the other big names. And 4A is the apartment number that the Moors lived in. Now, I know up until 4A came along, I think most of the apartments were, I'm assuming we're talking Irish, Italian, Jewish. And when I remember studying about tenements, I didn't hear much about Black tenement dwellers, which makes this really fascinating and an important story to be telling. So what do we see in 4A when we visit this exhibit?
And when we go to 4A, we see the experiences in the recreated apartment of Joseph and Rachel Moore, who were Black New Yorkers who had actually migrated to the city. Joseph Moore was actually born in the 1830s in Belvedere, New Jersey. He was born as a free Black person, so were his parents and his grandparents. And he was actually apprenticed to be a butcher in Belvedere, New Jersey, which talked about the sort of access that he had. However, he decides to come to New York City in 1857, and we interpret that that's because of some of the laws that are taking shape throughout our country at this time. One of those being the Fugitive Slave Act, which really incentivizes the sort of capture or even making claims that Black people are fugitives when they necessarily weren't, right? Also, Dred v. Scott was passed, which basically said that Black people had no rights at the federal level, and it was passed by the Supreme Court. So we imagine that life for Joseph Moore was very precarious, and that was something that was bringing him to a place like New York, but also his wife, Rachel, as well, who was from Ulster County, New York, and she was born 1 year after slavery was abolished in New York State in 1828. And when you go into their apartments, you see how it's recreated to sort of privilege the experiences of Black New Yorkers. We have different objects that talk to their experiences. We have a photograph of Abraham Lincoln that we know that Joseph Moore actually had in his home, a picture of Frederick Douglass, thinking about how these two men were really, really important to this country, but also to the abolition of slavery. We have a crucifix there as well to talk about the fact that they were Catholic.
And Kathryn, the significance of having the Moore's apartment alongside the other apartments there, what does it say about the importance of community at that time, but also the fact that this was really, what's the word? A little bit of everybody was there.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting is that actually the addition of the Moores to our building 97 Orchard Street, that's the first building the museum came to acquire, their addition is actually a big shift for the museum. They're the first permanent apartment we have to talk about a Black family, of course, because they didn't live in the building, right? They lived in a different building. And our founders, they envisioned a museum that would tell a range of stories, right? Like you're talking about, right? This importance of looking at who lived in tenements broadly. But then when they went to do research, they found actually that no one of African descent ever lived in 97 Orchard Street, which is a story in itself, right? About landlords who won't rent to Black New Yorkers, and then also community institutions in other neighborhoods. But this was a question we kept getting from visitors of where were the Black communities at these different times? So when we're talking about Irish immigrants in the 1860s and 70s or Jewish immigrants in the 19-teens, right? Our visitors were really curious. And it was actually our visitors' curiosity that then inspired us to do research into Joseph and Rachel Moore, who appear on a record with someone else that we already talk about at the museum. But I think what you're mentioning, this sort of sense of community and people sharing space together is such a big part of the For the Moores tour, because Joseph and Rachel Moore have an Irish roommate, Rose Brown. She's 35, she's an Irish immigrant, and she has a son who's both Black and Irish, right? That there were many people in the 8th Ward neighborhood who were in interracial families, and that we, through this tour, get to look at, some of the less known history of Black and Irish communities at this time period that then helps us talk about, like, over different periods, what have the connections or tensions looked like between communities of different racial identities or from different places. And so the 8th Ward in the 1860s is a really unique neighborhood to be able to talk about race in the United States, especially during the Civil War. And so we found it opens up a lot of really interesting conversations with our visitors.
It certainly does. And the 8th Ward is looking and feeling a lot like New York City today in a lot of ways. Am I wrong about that? Or
personally, I get a lot of inspiration thinking about this time period and thinking about this particular family story when thinking about how do we move forward from today, right? This time in our nation where there is so much division, and yet also on the ground so much connection, right? And people forming bonds and friendships and families across all of these different identity categories that we're told should keep us separate or should keep us against each other. And so personally, I find, and then also too, of course, as the museum, we found a lot of inspiration from looking at these moments in time where people were coming together to work towards American ideals and to push America to be the America they thought it could be. I get a lot of inspiration in the museum. We get a lot of inspiration in the past.
I think it's inspiring for all of us. Tenement.org, right? Is the museum website, and I'm assuming there we'll see times, dates that you can come and take a look at this and really get a feel for, in a lot of ways, who we are, not just who we were. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. If you say so, Al. Thank you guys for sitting down with us this afternoon. We appreciate it. It really is. It is one of the best museums in New York.
Thank you so much.
It truly is.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. For many, Harlem isn't just a neighborhood in New York City. It carries the enduring legacy of those who have called it home and made it the cultural touchstone that it remains today. But with growing concerns about gentrification and displacement, a new exhibit seeks to honor and preserve Harlem's place in history. Still Here, Harlem Eternal is co-curated by Defend Harlem, a community-based collective dedicated to advocating for and safeguarding this important community. Joining us today is co-curator Kathryn Destin and the co-chair of the board of the Children's Art Carnival, Michael Unthank. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
And it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Sandra.
So, talk to me about where the idea for this exhibition came from.
Sure. So, Defend Harlem has been around for a couple of years now, and we recently started releasing a zine, a magazine in the Harlem area since 2025, and it was getting a lot of support in the community, and we were distributing it at local bookstores. And so we wanted to further connect with the community in something that feels a little bit more stationary and something they can come sit with. So as a media organization, we decided to work with some local Harlem residents to display their work and really honor all that they're doing in the Harlem community.
Okay, and how did the Children's Art Carnival become part of this collective?
Well, as you mentioned in your intro, Harlem is that place, and the Children's Art Carnival has a long history in Harlem, starting in 1969, when our founder, Betty Blayton Taylor, was able to make it an autonomous organization after its kind of incubation and establishment, certainly at the Museum of Modern Art. So Betty got the townhouse for the Children's Art Carnival on 62 Hamilton Terrace. And so as a mission, the Carnival sees itself as very community-based, and we want to highlight and bring forward the issues that affect the community through arts and culture and arts education.
And so, and this particular exhibit sort of dovetails into exactly what you do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're very happy to have the exhibition come, and hope everybody comes to see it.
Yeah. And, you know, I mentioned going in, look, Harlem is like a lot of communities in this city and others these days, trying to maintain its identity while welcoming newcomers, but not losing the flavor of who it was, and not displacing people that have made the communities what they are. So how do you feel like your exhibit sort of exemplifies that spirit, and what do you want people to connect with when they come and take a look at this work?
For sure. Well, I just have to start with that 20 years ago, I was a student at the Children's Art Carnival. It was an organization that was really flourishing, that my mom wanted to get me involved. I'm an only child, so they had to put me somewhere. And so for me, as a Harlem native, to be able to have this exhibit housed at where I first learned my love for the arts and really got hands-on with the mediums that we are now displaying, I think it really is just bringing it all together. And so with the communities that we are featuring, we're really excited to just bring people back home and have them really honor all of the work that's been going on in this community.
Yeah. And I know he has to be proud of the fact that you are sitting here bragging about how they helped make you the lady you are today.
Absolutely.
No, exactly. She is proof of what it is that you are hoping to be able to accomplish over all these years.
She is a product of Betty's vision, Betty Blayton Taylor's vision, and her commitment to really support the young people in Harlem, in our neighborhood.
Yeah, and show them that there is plenty worth saving and
Yes.
plenty to come home to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about some of the photographs that were hand printed that are
Yeah.
part of this exhibit.
Yeah, so one of my teaching artists, Dionis Ortiz, has been working with me and some of the other co-curators on this cool like Xeroxing process. I'm still figuring out all the chemistry to it. But the idea is to just have the art feel just that more hands-on in an era where it's so easy to generate an image in a second or less. We wanted this to have a feel of the people that are part of this community are making it. So we're really excited. We'll be doing a mixture of that and portraiture, street art. We'll actually be having a short film, which we're wrapping up very soon. So really, this is just a collection of multiple mediums that have the people of Harlem involved in it to tell their story.
Yeah. And what would you like for people to walk away with when they come and take a look at this representation of this community that they love? Can I ask?
Yes. Well, I would like them to walk away, as I hope they walk away whenever they come to the Carnival, with a sense of community, a sense of coming together, and a sense of the full culture of the community in the midst of change. And we, when Betty started the Carnival, our neighborhood was completely different. The block that we were on was completely different. So as we move forward now into the future, we really want to be able to maintain that essence of the cultural base, but still be welcoming to everyone.
Yeah. Kathryn, I mentioned in the lead into this segment that, many communities are concerned that they're disappearing, that the essence of who they are disappearing. Yeah. And the legacies are important.
Exactly.
Do you feel like, is that a concern of yours? And are you hoping that the exhibit sort of, maybe for some people, rekindles that, not only belief in the community, but also the idea that, I'm a part of this. I can be part of the solution, if you will.
You hit it right on the head. For the past decade or so, around 5,000 Black families have left New York City, and that number is only increasing, and I've witnessed that myself. So with this exhibit, we're really hoping to just have people come, and we acknowledge that New York is a transient city. People come and go all the time. But what we really want to do is just preserve those who stayed and built Harlem into what it is, beyond just the knowledge of maybe the Apollo or certain things, but the small people who say hello, who lend you something, who want to spend time with you in the street, go out to eat and just enjoy each other in community. So I really hope that when everyone comes to the exhibit that they just feel part of something bigger, and that they feel the love of Harlem that's always been there.
Yeah, it's a community. It ain't Disneyland.
Absolutely.
That's right.
People live, breathe, eat, sleep, die.
Exactly.
Plant their seeds that hopefully will grow. And I guess what you guys are trying to do is to plant that seed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great idea and a worthy cause. Children'sArtCarnival.org, which is at 62 Hamilton Terrace, and it's going to run through September 20th, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you
for having us.
And you are invited back anytime. We like good news around here.
Yes.
There's a lot of bad. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Music lovers have plenty to celebrate this summer. Some world-class artists are going to be taking center stage at the Caramore, Newport, and DC Jazz Festivals. WBGO Jazz 88.3 FM is partnering with these festivals for an unforgettable season. And here to tell us more is President and CEO of WBGO, Stephen A. Williams. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be back. Thank you for having me.
So when
It's
you're
quite an
coming,
honor.
we know that it'll be something we want to hear about. So you are
Yes.
welcome to come back anytime.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right.
That's-
So these partnerships are so great. I think of summer, and I do think of jazz festivals. So talk to us about the partnership. It seems like it's right up your alley.
Absolutely, it's right up our alley, and it has really evolved into not just an opportunity for us to commune with fellow jazz lovers and purveyors and the artists. But recently, with the difficulties from an economic standpoint for broadcasters, television and radio, it's become a terrific source of sustenance from an economic standpoint for us, and that's really only recently. The jazz festival, as you know, is as American as apple pie.
Yes, it
You
is.
know, the concept of jazz in the open air, live and in the moment, goes back to, well, almost 100 years now. You know, I think the first jazz festival in the United States was the Newport Jazz Festival, going back in the mid-1950s.
Yeah.
And it has since become the rash of festivals across the country developed from that point. And so our listeners, WBGO listeners, expect us to be a part of that movement, that moment. And so we deliver by giving them opportunities to hang out with us and their fellow jazz lovers at these festivals. The Newport Jazz Festival is one of ours, as you just mentioned. This year, for the first time, we're going to be sending listeners on day trips. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, which I think is fantastic.
We put about 50 people on a bus over the course of a weekend, and we take the trip up to Newport or down to D.C. or out to Carramore. We have a good time on the way there. The music's waiting for you. You enjoy the music, and then we have almost as good a time coming back because people have lots of stories to tell.
Exactly.
They
They've
have
gotten to know
moments
each
to
other.
share. They've gotten to know each other because we see this group of people not as customers or as individuals. This is a community of like-minded, like-hearted individuals who love the music, who love WBGO, and now with the process of doing these festivals year after year after year, people expect us to do these festivals. In fact, we get calls months in advance
because they're trying to get prepared for their summer.
Yeah.
So let's start with which is the first one here. Let's start with. Newport is what, July 31st through August 2nd. Now, when is Carramore?
Carramore is just a few days before. I think it's the 28th of July.
Okay. I thought I had that note, but let's start with Carramore.
Yeah.
It's Katona, right?
Yep, it's in Katona. Yeah, so that's Rockland County, New York. It's a wonderful drive from New York City or from points in New Jersey. And then you spend the entire day hanging out with musicians and, again, WBGO members. It's more of the WBGO members event. We lay out the red carpet, and the folks at Carramore are also very, very hospitable as well. We eat, we drink, we listen to music, we stretch out on the lawn, and it's an all-day affair. You get up there around noon, and you leave around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and you get home, you have plenty of wonderful stories to tell.
And this will be it's all a package
Yeah,
deal.
it's all a package deal. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And Emmett Cohen Trio is sort of headlining.
Oh, yeah, he's
this
the
one?
headliner, yeah. And
Okay.
Emmett's a fabulous pianist who is multifarious when it comes to the jazz world. He does a little bit of everything as far as jazz is concerned.
Yeah.
And he's been one of our signature artists for many years. We can look at Emmett and see the evolution that has taken place with him over the years. And WBGO has been, I'd like to say, right there with him. Yes.
Yeah. And then, so we were mentioning Newport, which I love. I've been to a couple of times. Absolutely beautiful. That's another. This is a whole.
It's the same situation, but it's a 3-day affair in Newport, Rhode Island. Again, each day we pack a bus and we have a DJ. We have lots of fun opportunities to engage with WBGO hosts on the trip up. You have to do something, to pass the 3.5 hours of travel away. And then, but it goes by so quickly. It goes by so quickly. And then, again, same situation. You get up around noon, and you enjoy the music. And then at about 7:30, we get back on the bus
heading back.
and come back to. And we do two with Newport. We take two groups of individuals. We get individuals from Newark, New Jersey, and then we also come into the city and have people join us on the bus as well. The really interesting thing about Newport is that it sells out. When they announce it, it sells out within hours of the announcement. So the only way to go to Newport, usually after the first couple of days of it being announced, is by traveling with WBGO.
Oh, excuse me.
You
got a built-in
you
hook,
got to go
huh?
there. You can't get a ticket.
And
otherwise.
Herbie Hancock, Thundercat, and John Batiste are among some of the artists performing
Absolutely.
at Newport this year.
Yeah, and Herbie, is amazing, and he's
Yep.
mid-80s and
Still going.
Still going.
And last but not least, the DC Jazz Festival, which is September 2nd through the 6th. All right?
Yeah.
We're talking Dee Dee Bridgewater, Joshua Redmond, Danilo Perez.
Yes.
Those are some of the performers there. And you do the same thing again?
Same routine. We put people on a bus, take them down to DC. This is our first year, by the way, of working with the DC Jazz Festival. They actually approached us because of our relationship with Newport, and it's been so successful that the producers of the DC Jazz Festival said, hey, we want some of that too.
Well, you're making it easy for people to attend. And these are people that really want to be there and know what they're going for. Can you talk to me about price range for these trips?
Yeah, so typically it's somewhere between $250, $300 per person.
But that's everything.
And that's everything. That's your tickets, that's your travel. You have to buy your own food and your own drink, but we provide soda and water and things of that nature. But yeah, so you're spending about $300 per person. You get the bus ride, and you get the tickets, and you get most importantly, you get the fantastic music.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to send folks to WBGO.org, and they can find out, take a look, and see which package or all of them that is best for them.
Now,
right?
the next time we talk, we'll probably be, because we seek to expand this. We're expanding every year or so. We'll be doing international travel the next time you and I speak. We'll be sending listeners to festivals in Europe. We've done that in the past. We've sent listeners to Barcelona. We've sent listeners to Italy. And so we'll be doing more of the international travel as well.
All right. We will be happy to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Stephen A. Williams, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you. It's
Have
an
a
honor.
great summer.
Yeah, you too. Hope to see you at one of these festivals.
So we're gonna
You'll
say-
be my special guest.
All right. You heard it here. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/here and now. Or you can listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your own story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.